stay in the light. We talked about that. We talked about, the thing is, we got to stay away from our elaborate mechanisms to block pain and to gain significance. Our whole thing is we hide around these coverings to stay away from significance. And our life is, we start out in this life with a thirst, since we're born in sin and shaping in iniquity. We start out with a thirst to be significant because God has designed us to be significant, but we're supposed to be thirsting to get our significance in God and not man. A lot of us rarely experience the blend of contentment and godly intensity that God desires for us. So something that Robert McGee says. So look, contentment and intensity. So I'm content where I'm at, but I still have the intensity to go to the next level. So we rarely embrace that. We find ourselves always searching for something to satisfy this inner unexplained yearning. There's something in us that's always thirsting for more. And a lot of times what happens is if you don't find what it is in God, you try to quench that thirst with the world. It's just like if you don't know how to really satisfy your appetite, you'll just grab things. Like, back in the day, in the BC days when you had the munchies, right? You just... there you go. Well, I was trying to be nice to the young people out here, so I could say some controlled substances created an appetite that was uncontrollable. All right, and so you would just eat anything, figuring what? It's going to satisfy your appetite. And we only have to use BC days. When y'all go to the grocery store, you leave out of here and you're hungry. You just be grabbing stuff. Not what's going to satisfy your appetite. You just grab stuff. Or when the relationship goes into a funk, you just start buying stuff. Not that you need it. Not that it makes, but you feel, in the moment you're feeling something and you're trying to satisfy what you feel. Hey, I got an idea. Let's just do this. And it feels good. So you're just taking on anything. You're not dealing with the light of what actually is going to quench your thirst. See, what the covenant, when we shifted to putting covenant first, that's what quenched the thirst. And all the other things were added. We sought first the kingdom of God and all the other things added. She's looking for things. I'm looking for goals to conquer. Once we get here, everything will be great. Hey, stop tripping. Hang in there, girl. Once we get here, it's good. Based on what? What was that based on? How I felt. I just know it has to be. All this work justifies, what is it? The means justify the end that way, right? All this work, it has to work out because I'm working hard. You can work hard at doing the wrong thing. So I'm like, you're tripping. Why you ask me all these questions? We don't need any questions. Just roll with me. Trust me. So here, she got all these harebrained schemes to come up with all these businesses and different things like that. I have all these different supernatural goals that wherever this business is or this, pro basketball over here, coaching over here. We had all these different things going on, but we had to shift to making sure God and our relationship, even before our kids, family, and then drawing in things. We had to start to deal with a reality. See, a lot of times we're so busy starving for significance of man. That's our how could I say? That's our candy. Grandparents come over to get the kids candy, because for whatever reason, grandparents just want to be liked. So, your kids are running off the walls when they leave, but they don't care. They be like, here's some Tootsie Rolls. Here, it's M&M's. So you just, but we're like that. Like we have our candy. We have the things that, taste good. Like, what was that? Pumpkin. What was that pie? pumpkin cheesecake. So we have our things that taste good, But the reality is it's not good for us. Right. So what God's trying to do in this season is bring us into the light of doing what's best for us. And then we've had enough time where we've played out of doing it our way. Right. I'm saying that to say we get pulled into these traps of significance, and now we're constantly we got this cloud hanging over us. So yes, we could play church. We could come in here, we could do praise and worship, we could run around, we could have all our Bible quotes and stuff like that. But if we don't deal with the reality of where we are in our life and where God's trying to get us to go, we ain't doing nothing to nobody else. There's nothing different with nobody else. I'm talking to people that's really going through things as far as church. One guy said, man, I have to sit back and really get to know God. I was like, well, you've been in church all this time. You didn't get to know God? Well, they wasn't really teaching me to know God. They were teaching me to follow all the rituals and the practices. No, the goal is, remember, experiencing the realness of God. Remember that vision? Was that last year? Yeah. So knowing God, being real with God, being real with yourself, not to condemn you, but to trust God that he could take you from there. God said, give me a shot for you to embrace where you really are and let me take you from there. So he's saying, we're at the spiritual doctor's office. Now we're going to ask you these questions again. But this time I'm going to need you to deal with the truth. And based on what you expose, I will be able to help you if you trust me. And that's the level that we are now. We're not going forward hiding or emotionally, just based on how we feel. We're not fighting to make people pay. Yes, we're hurt. We take that stuff and the reality is we defer that to God, right? If somebody needs to pay, that's going to be on him. But I don't have enough time. I don't have any energy. I don't have enough life left to spend any more energy in investing in proving myself to anybody else. Making people, see, because, when you make people pay, you're like, I'm going to show you ain't getting away with that. Well, tell you what, you may or may not get away with that. But I need all my energy to taste fulfillment, to get my thirst quenched. I've been spending all this energy either in trying to get where I'm going or try to hope I don't lose where I got or to try to make somebody pay for trying to interrupt on my path or try to prove to the people that think I'm not all that I'm going to be somebody. I'm getting off that train and I'm getting on the train of just resting in God. But I'm going to have to deal with some realities. I'm going to have to embrace some truths. I might have to take an uncomfortable step this week. I might have to go walking this week. Ooh, spooky. And I might have to step it up, I might have to do some different things. I might have to change my diet this week. I was talking to a friend of mine a little while ago. He was talking about fasting. He said, man, I just hear clearly from God. So he said he was fasting he's been fasting for a month, 3 days a week, just cutting out, listening to secular stuff. He said what he realized is, he said, man, I just was worried about so much stuff. Does well in life. The person is living their dream. So on the outside, you'd be like, person living their dream, what do they have to worry about? Well, at that level, you just got more stuff that will at least come at them to consider. But he said, man, I was like, wait a minute, man. This stuff is running through my head too much. God doesn't want us to operating with a lot of stuff. He says to be careful for nothing in Philippians 4:6. Worry for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. God wants us in peace. He'll keep them in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him. So he's trying to reset us. I just sent it out to mostly everybody, but that's what the confessions are about. That's what the word about. It's not no one controlling your life. And actually, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But it's trying to get us recalibrate our mind back to God is first, and that's our thirst. And it's trying to shift us in the whole thing about confessions and prayer. Yes, you're confessing and praying for yourself, but you're interceding for others. Get us back into taking our mind off of ourselves and putting it back on what God designed it for, other people. Stop eating our own fruit. It's shifting us into what God, I mean, you know, we're doing well, we're growing fine, we're growing together. Like we're not sitting here as pastors going, hey, God bless the child got his own. Hey, you ain't coming, we going. No, we're like, hey, come on. We'll take the time out to go, hey, you realize you ain't even got to even go through that no more. Hey, just try this, do that. But the whole thing is, for all of us, it's a very, for me, it's very uncomfortable to see people celebrating. And you're like, you're sitting there and you're acting like you're on a team, but you don't feel like celebrating. So I gave a testimony recently. I went to the Division III Final Four. So the game before the Final Four, all our games we was winning by a point. Guy tipped in the bucket. So, crowd goes wild. We're going to the Final Four. The bench clears, people running. Everybody was celebrating except one person, me, because I didn't play that game. And the guy that was playing, my thinking, this was my perspective, I was like, there's no way this dude should be playing over me. This is what I was thinking. And so his alumni, he was standing behind me, some scoring lead or something. He said, like, everybody's celebrating. He could have joined the celebration, but he noticed me. He says, I know what you're thinking, because you didn't play today. You're thinking that, what do you have to celebrate? He says, but they're not celebrating without you on this team. He said, they had to play against you every day. He said, you have a whole lot to celebrate. You are a part of this victory. But I remember just that feeling. Yeah, so that's why we have these first 3 years, which is a time of preparation, has been more stretching and challenging, because when God, after you cross out of that 3-year period, there's an explosion that takes place. And then, you got people that be like, oh, Pastor Mel, she done broke brand new. No, Pastor Mel's just growing. And the thought was you was coming too. So challenge yourself to take that step that God's been talking to you about, that you've been putting off. Pastor didn't say it. God's been talking to you about it. Challenge yourself to commit to be consistent in a part of it. And then say in 90 days, I'm going to add to that part. And I'm going to keep getting to a point where I'm going to look around. And, if it's exercise, it's a part of my life. I watched my wife. It's been 7 weeks now. I've been keeping tabs. So this is a 7-week with working out with her trainer. And so, and I do it. I've been doing it different. So I've kind of worked around. We was just doing little small muscle stuff and little light cardio. Then I added some cardio. But then because it's already in her to work out, she took it to one day. She took it to a level. She did like 3 times as much as I had planned. I ain't say nothing. She was like, "No, I'm about to do another one." She was like, "No, I'm about to do it." And I was watching her like, I think I filmed that day. The determination. And but I noticed the whole goal was just to be consistent at participating in the exercise, not to do what I do, just to be consistent. And then build on that. And then now, because, I'm a trainer, so I'm going to, offer additional things for her to build on. But I've watched her 7 weeks. It only takes 3 weeks for it to be a habit. It's a part of her flow.